Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the Morning Market Prep video for October 9th, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a great afternoon, a restful evening, because we have, well, likely another day of hurry up and wait as we wait for an FOMC minutes release this afternoon, a pending CPI on Thursday, then of course PPI, and the beginning of earnings season on Friday with several big bank reports. So today could be one of those frustrating days where we continue to chop in this consolidating move of the market. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, Asian markets last night had a little bit of trouble. There's one thing about stimulus. Stimulus can be a double-edged sword, and all of a sudden we have a situation where the markets were not very happy over there because they weren't getting more sugar from the Communist Party to continue that stimulus. Shanghai falling pretty sharply last night, down 6.62%. The Hong Kong index fell 1.38% after its big slide on Tuesday. We saw India a little bit lower, but Australia was higher by 0.13% as they cut interest rates by 50 basis points, and the Nikkei was up just ever so slightly, 0.87%. South Korea was closed due to a holiday. If we take a look at European markets this morning, European markets are trying to shake off the sentiment that's kind of been dampened by the wild volatility in Asian markets, but trying to recover from yesterday's selling just a little bit, with the DAX up 0.18%, the FTSE up 0.38%, the CAC up 0.21%. And here in the U.S., we're going the other direction. We're just slightly lower on all of our indexes at the moment. And remember, I'm recording this very early in the morning, but Dow futures down 0.03%, S&P futures down 0.02%, and NASDAQ futures down 0.06%, as we continue to struggle to follow through on any of these big daily moves. Then we end up whipsawing the other direction, stuck in a trading range. If we take a look at what's happening in bonds this morning, now bonds easing just a tiny little bit, but not enough to make any major change. 2-year bonds at 3.95%. The 10-year still holding in there above 4% at 4.02 this morning, and the 30-year bonds have ticked back a couple of ticks to 4.30% this morning, as we continue to see that pressure in the bonds market. Not all that confident, at least at the moment. The bonds seem to be disagreeing with the overall market. If we take a look at oil this morning, well, oil's easing up, and boy, what a whopper of a move yesterday. There is the hope out there that there's conversation of a Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire. I don't know if that will actually play out. That's been attempted before. When you have a war like this on religious terms, it's pretty difficult for either side to back down. And so keep a close eye on this. But right now, oil this morning is down again just a tiny little bit, 29 cents a barrel at 73.28, and Brent crude is down 20 cents at 76.98 a barrel. Natural gas is also a little bit lower here this morning, pushing back. We've given up this trend as natural gas relieves some of that upside run here in the market, but still overall pretty darn bullish chart. If we take a look at precious metals here this morning, our precious metals are trying to move up. Take a look. We've got our dollar, interesting candle here yesterday on the dollar, but You can see, I think that's probably a bad tick in the chart. This will probably remedy by the market open, but you can see the dollar still trying to hold strength in here. And as the dollar is trying to hold strength, we are looking at gold continuing to hold up. We found a little trend in here, selling off yesterday, trying to hold up in here, pushing higher at the moment. Right now, gold futures are up $4.40 an ounce. We have silver this morning also trying to go just a little bit higher after a pretty strong sell-off yesterday. So we'll want to keep that in our radar here today, because if we start to hold some of these support levels, that'd be right where I'd be looking for those rallies back to the upside. Copper and platinum are just a little bit lower this morning, but if we take a look at like FCX, not seeing any major change here in FCX or COPX on that little pullback here this morning. In fact, COPX is trying to drive higher in the pre-market after gapping lower, and palladium just a little bit higher today, but you can see palladium struggling in here on their ETF, so watch that close. So what does all that mean for the day? Oh, I should mention crypto. Crypto a little bit lower today. We've got Bitcoin down at just $66 a coin. Ether is down $2.79 a coin, and mostly lower here on cryptos this morning, so keep an eye on that. So how about we settle in, let's buckle up, let's get ready for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. Let's take a look at some charts and see if we can gain a little bit of information about how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, everyone, we want to shake off that bias. Let's look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. Now, yesterday was quite the move back up, and it was mostly led by tech. But unfortunately, when you really step back and take a look at things, did anything change here in the market? And the answer to that is, well, no. It was just a day up after a day down in the Dow, and certainly didn't do anything to move us out of this restriction. So if the bulls can find inspiration today and follow through, which is something they just really are struggling with right now, we just can't get any momentum in the market. You can see that pushing up into here. First, I would probably suggest we need to break that big black candle, but then pushing up into here, we would test those recent highs, and then pushing out, we can maybe work our way up here to that high print to see if we can break through to all-time highs in the diamonds. Now, of course, if the bears were to find inspiration, it's not all that hard to see this either, that pop down, retesting these lows in the chart, and then possibly even moving on lower to test some of these support levels across here. Once again, I will remind everyone that we have slid beyond our trend, so if the bears were to really get going, dropping down in here would likely raise a little bit of concern, a little bit of fear overall in the market. Now, if we take a look at our SPY, SPY had a really good day yesterday, but a very similar thing is going on here. We had a really ugly day the day before, but what has really changed in here? And the answer is nothing. We're still stuck in this range, but you can see right now we've got a little push in the pre-market. Looks like they're trying to get the SPY green. So if they can follow through, which we haven't seen for a long time, follow through and push up here to test this resistance in the chart, and then any push beyond that would set up that all-time high here in the market. And you can certainly understand why the institutions and things want that all-time high, because we've been struggling so much in this resistance area that folks are starting to lose some faith and interest in the market, and they need a headline right now to maybe bring some cash into the markets. If, however, those bears were to find inspiration, well, the first thing I would do is I would watch for the possible break of yesterday's low, and then pushing on back down to test some of these lows here in the chart, and maybe even coming back into this big area of price support if the bears were to get going. Now, breaking down below there, you will notice at that point we might be giving up, if we were to push that far down, giving up this upside trend, and that would possibly raise a little bit of concern or fear, and pushing down beyond that would likely raise some concern. QQQ, very much the same thing. If we look at the Qs, QQQ in a wider chop range here, and had a really good day yesterday based on big tech, but unfortunately we have some news today that might temper that enthusiasm a little bit, because we hear that the Department of Justice is considering a breakup of the Google monopoly, and obviously, Google's a big part of that Mag 7, and that could create some issues here if that thought process gains a little bit more traction. So watch that carefully here as we try to pump here in the pre-market, trying to push this up, break through yesterday's high here in the chart, and then we're going to stretch right up in here, and we're going to see if we can test this level of price resistance. Now, breaking through that area of price resistance would be significant. We haven't seen that for a while, so if we can push up through there, I would look for an area right in here to serve as resistance, and then pushing through that area up here toward all-time highs. I certainly think it's possible with the enthusiasm that we have on big tech, but I would watch that closely with some of these details coming out on Google. And if the bears were to grab onto that and have anything to say, then I would say a push back down in here. We might test yesterday's low here first, and then see if we can push back on down through that black candle and back into these support areas of the chart. Again, if we were to go any further than that, notice this upside trend is still holding in here. So we're still bullish, by the way, in the Diamond Spy and QQQ charts, still bullish, even though we've had all of this resting consolidation. And if you watched any of the videos prior to this, I warned about this possibility because of the declining breadth of the market going into the corporate buyback restrictions. So if we were to fall further than this, maybe falling and breaking that upside trend would raise a little bit of concern. Now, if we take a look at our IWM remains the weakest of the indexes, and it's been kind of the redheaded stepchild of the market for a long time. And as you can see, feeling pretty darn ugly here in that downtrend. Lower high, lower low, possible lower high. We just haven't failed through this support yet to create that lower low. So if the bears were to find inspiration here and push down below this, that's where that concern might come in there on the Russell, and we would start pushing back into some of these additional support levels and see if this kind of flat upside trend would be able to hold IWM up and get something going here. Now, if the bulls were to find inspiration here, if we're going to use this little tiny area right here as a price support, then what we need to see on those bulls is we need to see them break that downtrend in here and start coming back up, testing some of these areas of the chart, see if we can break back through and then possibly hold up here at a higher low, swinging that trend back to the upside. If we can push on back on through up through these areas, that would be impressive, and then pushing beyond that we're up here testing these really old highs of 2021 and 2022. Big resistance up there in the chart. Let's take a look at our T20s here. First, let's look at our VIX. Our VIX yesterday did pull back. We had that bullish move in the market, got a little dark cloud cover coming into the VIX, but one thing I would point out is if I draw across there, you can see we didn't break any of that support level in here in the chart just yet. So we need those bulls to continue to push to the upside and get some inspiration going here to the upside to maybe start breaking this little upside trend back to the downside. Once again, if the bears were to find inspiration, I would look for that push up here to possibly break this resistance, probably raising some concern in the market if that were to occur. So watch that carefully and closely. And then if we take a look at those T20s, our T21, 22, this is what was really a head scratcher yesterday in the market. We got the impression that everything was really bullish yesterday, but it wasn't. It was very select in the stocks. So you'll want to be paying close attention to this, because we can see yesterday in the T21, 22, although we got a little bit of a rally out of it, we really didn't go very far. We have about an equal chance for an upside potential move and a downside potential move, because we're hovering right in there around 50-50. So although we had that impression with some of the big techs trying to regain leadership, the Mag 7 was doing a good job pushing the Qs back higher, trying to regain that leadership. But you can see the majority of the market wasn't buying it. So watch that closely here. And if we take a look at T2108, it does also help confirm what I'm saying. The percentage of stocks above the 40-day moving average actually declined yesterday, where we thought, oh my gosh, everything is bullish now all of a sudden. And we did slip below the 50% area here. Not so much to be a major worry, but we continue to see that weakness in the market as breadth of the market is not following through without those corporate buybacks. So watch that carefully here. There's that 50% area. If the bulls can find inspiration, well, popping back up, we certainly have some resistance up above for them to deal with. And if we continue to slide down, that's where a little bit of fear or worry might come into the market. We might catch this upside trend. But anytime we see the percentage of stocks above the 40 go below the 50% area, little concern starts to come into the market. And our T2107 also continued to decline yesterday. So the percentage of stocks above the 200-day were falling yesterday, while we were getting this impression that everything was really copacetic and bullish and everything was getting heavily bullish. Well, the majority of the market wasn't buying it. And as you can see, pushing down, breaking some support, but still nothing major terrible here, because 50% is all the way down here. So we're still holding up pretty well in the T2107, albeit a little bit of a downtrend and a little bit of concern coming into that chart. And here's the real problem. T2101, as we were pushing up in those select stocks yesterday, giving the impression of lots of bullishness, the breadth of the market was continuing to remain very weak, even declined a little bit yesterday, just very, very weak, as we're waiting for that opportunity that the corporate buybacks can do something here and really start raising that market breadth. So we've got a couple more days to wait. And speaking to that, let's take a look at our economic calendar here for today. Our economic calendar, looking at this, as you can see this morning, we got mortgage applications here this morning, and they came in quite weak as those rates went right back up, dropping 5.1%. Look at the refinance, dropping 9.3% this morning, as we kind of stagnate as those bond yields go up, and they're holding up. So we'll want to be kind of watchful of that as we progress. Looking through here, we've got a whole bunch of Fed speakers here. We've got Bostic, Logan, Goolsbee, Barkin, Jefferson, Collins, and Daly all speaking today. We've got a wholesale inventories report that will be coming up at 10 a.m. 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We're going to have the petroleum status numbers, which of course will be very important with the volatility that we've seen here in oil lately. And then, of course, 10-year note auction, and probably the thing that will be, I don't think we'll learn anything more from the FOMC minutes, but it's not unusual for the market to just be choppy as we wait for that FOMC minutes to come out, and we'll get some volatility around that. But by that time of the day, everyone is going to be thinking, what is this CPI number going to be for tomorrow? Jobless claims, that could be a game changer for the market, and we might finally make that decision. We've been winding up in a very, very tight range, and this wind up could set that spring loose either to the upside or the downside. Your guess is as good as mine as which side that's going to go. But I do expect here in the very near future some kind of big move coming in the market based on this tight consolidation that we have been in. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here today, and unfortunately there really isn't much going on in earnings because we're waiting on the beginning of the big bank reports. So we've got this morning, we've got a Helen of Troy report that's a notable, getting a nice little push here this morning, and a gap above that could be filled. So I would be keeping an eye on Helen of Troy. Any kind of little rest or pullback in the market here this morning might set up that opportunity for an entry somewhere along that trend to push this up into filling that gap. So nice move there on Helen of Troy. And then this afternoon, the only other notable that we have is AZZ. Kind of keep an eye on that. Had quite the volatility in it yesterday. Tried to really pop and run, and then gave it all back up, and you can see just a little bit lower here this morning. So watch that closely. So with that, how about we take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, please click that subscribe button on YouTube, and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, if the video is worthy, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to grow. Thank you so much for everyone who does take the time to do that. I do try to answer those comments, and I do truly appreciate the kind support that everyone shows. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I could have created something like this that it's not chocked full of prediction and chocked full of hype, that there would be so many people that would latch on and find this to be useful. So thank you, everyone. It is very humbling, and I do truly appreciate it. And also thank you to those who continue to support the channel through the Buy Me a Coffee link just below the title of the video, and those who are really, really awesome in sharing these videos out there on their social media feed, helping us reach more folks. Let's take a look at these charts, and remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You've got to do your own due diligence. I say this every day. You should never, ever blindly follow anyone else's trade idea. Make sure you're following your rules and your guidelines, and work very carefully to keep that risk tolerance in check, because this is a dangerous market. If we take a look in here, I added an alert yesterday on Pinterest. I really like the way this pattern is setting up. We've got a little W bottom formation going on in here. Broke through this resistance, and we're resting and consolidating. in this move, kind of like the rest of the market. But if we can find any kind of bullish inspiration, I'd look for that opportunity to maybe start picking up. And if we can pop up through here, you can see we've even got a little gap up here that we might be able to fill in Pinterest. So looking pretty good in there. It is in what we call a rounded bottom breakout pattern and has some potential there. So keep an eye on Pinterest. APLD, I mentioned this one yesterday. This kind of fell out of bed and broke this down. I said what's going to have to happen for this to get back on my good side is it's got to recover and prove to hold that it can get up here and hold. So we got the first part of it done. We popped up yesterday here pretty strong trying to hold. If it can rest up in here, then I would still look for that opportunity that could push on through to the upside. Still liking the way McDonald's looks in here. This is a beautiful little upside trend, holding a nice little tight consolidation. All we need is that inspiration in the market, that little bit of a bullish push in here, and it's really no different than what occurred here. We finally pushed on through, or here where we finally pushed on through. So keep a look, an eye on this, and watch for that opportunity that could catch some bullish inspiration to push through to the upside. Still like the way DoorDash looks, a very similar pattern. Nice little resting consolidation here, breaking above resistance, holding it as support, consolidating that move. Look for that next opportunity for that to push on through. Still think Gilead's looking good. We haven't had really great follow through, but we haven't had great follow through in most of the market here as we continue to lack that momentum. But you can see pushing through my alert here and then just kind of resting up in here as we slide toward this trend. So keep an eye on Gilead for that opportunity that may still get that move to the upside. Looking pretty darn good overall. I still like Cleveland Cliffs, and despite the fact that the US dollar has been really strong, you would typically see something like Cleveland Cliffs moving lower on a strength in the dollar. For that matter, you would see oil moving lower on strength in the dollar. But most of these commodities are holding up pretty strong here as the dollar strengthens. So watch this carefully. Remember, we are likely in a rate reducing cycle. The high probability that the Fed will cut rates again by 25 basis points in November, unless something really changes in that CPI number tomorrow. That's the likely case, and we see that opportunity that Cleveland Cliffs, as the dollar weakens, that might break this pattern, start pushing back to the upside. And you can look in a lot of commodities for that kind of thing, including what I would say gold right now, setting up in here for that potential. As long as we can kind of hang on to this trend, we can get that bullish move starting to happen here on any kind of weakening of the dollar. I would look for that to stretch on up here in gold. It's been extremely well behaved in here. If you can imagine, typically when dollar rises like it has, we would see gold fall hard. Just not the case. There's just enough worry in the market that gold is holding up pretty darn strongly. So watch that closely. Take a look at PayPal. Continue to watch PayPal here. I've got a position in it, got a really nice profit in it. I don't have a big position. I truly didn't add to it as I hoped that I would at the moment, but you know, that happens. But now if I take a look at the longer term chart, take a look at a weekly in here. This little resistance up here could continue this little consolidating move, and then I would look for that opportunity for that breakout in here and a real change maybe coming into PayPal. So watch that closely. As you guys know, I've talked about Disney multiple times. Doggone, Disney just can't get out of its own way here at the moment. And this morning there's news that they're raising prices again on some things. So we do have this problem here where we created a lower high in the chart. So I'm going to watch for this to probably complete this move back down into this trend, and then we'll have to evaluate how that pattern sets up for that next upside opportunity. But watch that carefully here on that chart. Other places in the market, boy, I saw some pretty nice moves in Roku yesterday, looking very good, pushing on through. You can see there's that alert. We kind of slipped past the trend, but Roku got busy with it yesterday, pushing to the upside. Very nice looking chart. Tractor Supply had a really beautiful move yesterday. It went a little bit ahead of trend, so I wouldn't be surprised if it has to rest a little bit. But watch that carefully in here on Tractor Supply. Nice strong move there, popping through 300, and 300 being a natural, big round number resistance area. Again, I wouldn't be all that surprised to see that rest up in here now, but then I'd be looking for that next opportunity there. Take a look at Intel. Intel had a really nice pop yesterday, trying to hold this support level in the chart, trying to push on through. So watch that carefully. If tech can continue that follow through that they started yesterday, maybe we can move on up, test this resistance, and then try to stretch on through for that gap fill in the chart on Intel. So with that, everyone, hey, I want to wish you all a fantastic day. I want to wish you great results in your trading. Thank you so much for being here this morning, for listening and participating with the Right Way Options video. I do truly appreciate it. You guys take care, be safe, have a wonderful day, and I will see you right back here on Thursday. That CPI number might be just the thing that breaks this logjam and gets us moving. So y'all take care. See you first thing tomorrow morning, and I wish you all the best.